Every time you think this race cannot get any more ludicrous, it does. This latest episode started this morning when Trump cited a bizarre and completely uncorroborated report, and I use the term report loosely, in the National Enquirer, the supermarket tabloid.
His father was with Lee Harvey Oswald prior to Oswald's being, shot. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. What is this, right prior to his being shot? And nobody even brings it up. I mean, they don't even talk about that. That was reported, and nobody talks about it. What was he doing with Lee Harvey Oswald shortly before the death, before the shooting?
I cannot believe I need to say the following, but here goes. There is no corroborated evidence that Ted Cruz's father ever met Lee Harvey Oswald, or for that matter, any other presidential assassin. We in the media don't talk about it because there's no evidence of it. In fact, there is contrary evidence. Well before the picture was taken, Rafael Cruz's sister was brutally beaten by Castro forces, and Rafael Cruz had denounced the regime. So any suggestion that Cruz's father played a role in the Kennedy assassination is ridiculous and, frankly, shameful. Now, that's not an anti-Trump position or a pro-Cruz position. It's a pro-truth position. I want to ask you about comments you made about the judge in the Trump University case. You said that you thought it was a conflict of interest that he was the judge because he's of Mexican heritage, even though he's from Indiana.
Yeah. Let me just tell you, I have had horrible rulings. I've been treated very unfairly by this judge. Now, this judge is of Mexican heritage. I'm building a wall, okay? I'm building a wall. I am going to do very well with the Hispanics, the Mexicans,
So
everybody.
No Mexican judge could ever be involved in a case that involves you?
He's a member of a society where, very pro-Mexico, and that's fine. It's all fine. But
Except that you're calling into question
he
his
should
heritage.
recuse himself.
Because he's
Then
Latino.
you also say, does he know the lawyer on the other side? I mean, does he know the lawyer? A lot of people say
But
yes.
I'm not
I don't
talking
know.
about that. I'm talking
about that's another problem.
But you're invoking his race when talking about whether or not he can do his job.
Jake, I'm building a wall, okay? I'm building a wall. I'm trying to keep business out of Mexico. Mexico's fine. There's nothing.
But he's American. He's an American.
He's of Mexican heritage, and he's very proud of it, as I am where I come from.
But he's
my
an
parents.
American. You keep talking about
Jake.
It's a conflict of interest because of Mexico.
Are you ready? I have a case that should have been dismissed already. I have thousands of people saying Trump University is fantastic, okay? I have a case that should have been dismissed. I have a judge that never, ever gives a... Now we lose the plaintiff. He lets the plaintiff of the case out. So why isn't he canceling the case? So we thought we won the case.
If you are saying he can't do his job because of his race, is that not the definition of racism?
No, I don't think so at all.
No?
No, he's proud of his heritage. I respect him for that.
You're saying he can't do his job because of it.
Look, he's proud of his heritage, okay? I'm building a wall. This judge is giving us unfair rulings. Now I say why. Well, I'm building a wall, okay? And it's a wall between Mexico, not another country.
But he's not from Mexico.
In my opinion,
he's from Indiana.
He's Mexican heritage, and he's very proud of it.
But you're not from Scotland because you have Scottish heritage.
Hey.
I want to ask you about the Anti-Defamation League, which this week called on you to publicly condemn unequivocally the racism of former KKK Grand Wizard David Duke, who recently said that voting against you at this point would be treason to your heritage. Will you unequivocally condemn David Duke and say that you don't want his vote or that of other white supremacists in this election?
Well, just so you understand, I don't know anything about David Duke, okay? I don't know anything about what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacists. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know, did he endorse me or what's going on? Because, I know nothing about David Duke. I know nothing about white supremacists. And so you're asking me a question that I'm supposed to be talking about people that I know nothing about.
But I guess the question from the Anti-Defamation League is, even if you don't know about their endorsement, there are these groups and individuals endorsing you. Would you just say unequivocally you condemn them and you don't want their support?
Well, I have to look at the group. I mean, I don't know what group you're talking about. You wouldn't want me to condemn a group that I know nothing about. I have to look. If you would send me a list of the groups, I will do research on them, and certainly I would disavow if I thought there was something wrong. But you may have groups in there that are totally fine, and it would be very unfair. So give me a list of the groups, and I'll let you know.
Okay. I mean, I'm just talking about David Duke and the Ku Klux Klan here, but...
I don't know, honestly, I don't know David Duke. I don't believe I've ever met him. I'm pretty sure I didn't meet him, and I just don't know anything about him. President Barack Obama was born in the United States, period.
Now we all want to get back to making America strong and great again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's hard to imagine this as anything other than a political rickroll. The idea that we were told this was going to be Donald Trump addressing something that his top campaign advisors, many people in the Republican National Committee, want him to address and clear up and then stop talking about, which is this lie that President Obama was not born in the United States, which has been discredited for more than half a decade now, but Donald Trump has been trafficking in it as recently as this year. We were told he was going to do that, and instead they bring out a number of Medal of Honor recipients and military heroes instead, and it was very clever on one level. On another level, it does speak to the integrity of the Trump campaign. They told us something was going to happen, and it's not happening. So, Mr. Speaker, you have said throughout this process that you will support the Republican presidential nominee. Now you have a presumptive nominee, Donald Trump. Will you support him?
Well, to be perfectly candid with you, Jake, I'm just not ready to do that at this point. I'm not there right now. And I hope to, though, and I want to. But I think what is required is that we unify this party. And I think the bulk of the burden on unifying the party will have to come from our presumptive nominee. What
you're saying is a fairly dramatic announcement that the Speaker of the House cannot, as of now, support his party's nominee for president. Is there something specific that he has done or said that has brought you to this moment?
Well, like I said, I hope to support our nominee. I hope to support his candidacy fully, and I want to do that. But right now, just I got to tell you, Jake, I'm just being candid with you. At this point, I'm just not there right now.
Once again, journalists are in the unhappy predicament of trying to decide whether and how to cover false allegations raised by a candidate for president of the United States. This time, in the midst of Donald Trump's attacks on the Clintons using various scandals and accusations from the 1990s, Mr. Trump has repeated an outrageous and long ago debunked falsehood about former Deputy White House counsel Vince Foster, a friend of Bill and Hillary Clinton's until his tragic suicide. In July 1993, Foster, who suffered from depression, drove to Fort Marcy Park in Virginia, walked into the park with an old revolver, and shot himself in the mouth. The Park Service police concluded that year that Foster committed suicide, but that did not stop conspiracy theorists at the time from concocting all sorts of unfounded allegations. Now, that first investigation was followed by an investigation by CNN in 1994 concluding Foster's death was due to suicide and that alternative scenarios had no credibility. Other investigations reached the same conclusion, one by independent counsel Robert Fisk in 1994, two by congressional reviews in 1994 and 1995, another by independent counsel Ken Starr in 1997. So one would think, case closed, right? Wrong. Donald Trump, in an interview appearing in today's Washington Post, called the circumstances surrounding Vince Foster's death, quote, very fishy, and said, I don't bring Foster's death up because I don't know enough to really discuss it. I will say there are people who continue to bring it up because they think it was absolutely a murder. I don't do that because I don't think it's fair, right? Except, of course, you just did that, Mr. Trump. You lent credence to a bizarre and unfounded conspiracy theory. Though you're right, it's not fair that you did that. Certainly not to Mr. Foster's widow or their 3 children. To be clear, the notion that this was a murder is a fiction born of delusion and untethered to reality and contradicted by evidence reviewed in at least 6 investigations, one of them by Ken Starr, hardly a Bill Clinton defender. To say otherwise is ridiculous and frankly shameful. Again, this is not a pro-Clinton position or an anti-Trump position. It is a pro-truth position. Some of your Republican critics have expressed concern about comments you have made praising authoritarian dictators. You have said positive things about Putin as a leader and about China's massacre of pro-democracy protesters at Tiananmen Square. You said, quote, when the students poured into Tiananmen Square, the Chinese government almost blew it. Then they were vicious, they were horrible, but they put it down with strength. That shows you the power of strength. How do you respond
to that? Doesn't mean I was endorsing that. I was not endorsing it. I said that is a strong, powerful government that put it down with strength, and then they kept down the riot. It was a horrible thing. It doesn't mean at all I was endorsing it. As far as Putin is concerned, I think Putin's been a very strong leader for Russia, but he's been a lot stronger than our leader, that I can tell you. I mean, for Russia. That doesn't mean I'm endorsing Putin.
But the word strong, obviously, is a compliment. And many people would look at what the Chinese leaders have done and what Putin is doing as atrocities.
Strong doesn't mean good. Putin is a strong leader, absolutely. I could name many strong leaders. I could name very many very weak leaders. But he is a strong leader.
I mean, when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Whatever you want. Grab him by the pussy. You can do anything.
He's talking about actions that are sexual assault. And he was 59 or 60 years old when he said it. This wasn't something that he said when he was 18 years old. He's talking about a feeling of entitlement because he's a star. He can go up to women and grab them by the vagina. And it's okay. He won't get in trouble for it. It's really offensive on just a basic human level. Who did he do that to?
Well, first of all, I don't know that he did it to anyone. This is talk, and gosh almighty, you know, he who hasn't sinned throw the first stone here. I know some of these people dropping
I will gladly tell you, Mr. Mayor, I have never said that. I have never done that. I'm happy to throw a stone. I don't know any man. I've been in locker rooms. I've been a member of a fraternity. I have never heard any man ever brag about being able to maul women because they get away with it. Never.
We've taken it to an extra degree, but in any event, we've taken it to an extra degree of what he said. But the fact is that men at times talk like that. Not all men, but men do.
You've talked like that?
He was wrong for doing it. I am not justifying it. I believe it's wrong. I know he believes it's wrong. I believe that this is not the man that we're talking about today.
I guess, Mr. Trump, the point is that people are getting hurt and people are actually concerned that somebody might get seriously, seriously injured before this is all over, and that you are not taking down the temperature. You are, in the views of many of your fellow Republicans, making things worse, inciting, encouraging violence. And you're a leader, sir. You're the front runner of the Republican Party.
Excuse me. My fellow Republicans are running against me. They are losing big league.
I would just ask, as a fellow American, if you could consider whether or not dialing down the temperature, trying to bring down the temperature, might be a healthier thing, both for your campaign and for the nation at large. Michael G. Flynn, the son of the future National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, has been pushing a bunch of conspiracy theories, including one that ended up impacting where you're staying right now, your local pizza place, Comet Pizza. An insane lie spread online. It led a North Carolina man to barge into the restaurant with two weapons. Thankfully, no one was hurt. Now, Flynn Jr. Was on the transition team, but a source familiar with the situation tells me that he was asked to leave and that the direct order came from President-elect Trump. Tell me what happened.
Well, what I can say is that we are so grateful and honored to have General Flynn as our nominee for National Security Advisor. He brings an extraordinary wealth of experience. He's also a dedicated family man. And I said this morning that his son had no involvement in the transition, but I've talked to General Flynn, and his son was helping him a bit with scheduling and administrative items, but that's no longer the case. Look, all of our families want to be helpful, and 4 weeks to the day from Election Day, there's been an awful lot of work to do, but Mike Flynn Jr. is no longer associated with General Flynn's efforts or with the transition team, and we're focused eyes forward.
You're downplaying his role, but you must be aware that the transition team put in for security clearance for Michael G. Flynn, the son of Lieutenant General Flynn.
Well, I'm aware in talking to General Flynn that his son was helping with scheduling, Jake.
No, but you put in for security clearance for him.
He was helping his dad arrange for meetings and provide meetings, but that's no longer the case.
But do you need security clearance to do scheduling?
I think that's the appropriate decision for us to move forward, avoid any further distraction.
The last question on this, sir, and I'm sorry, you're not answering the question, which is, were you aware that the transition team had put in for a security clearance? I mean, this is a young man who had a social media profile that had all sorts of crazy conspiracy theories, that had all sorts of links and retweets with white supremacists. Were you aware that the transition put in for a security clearance for him?
Well, what I can tell you is that in talking with General Flynn today, he made me aware that his son was assisting him in scheduling
and that you'd put in for a security
meetings
clearance.
And well, whatever the appropriate paperwork was to assist him in that regard, Jake, I'm sure was taking place. But That's no longer the case, and your viewers and the American people can be confident that we're going to continue to drive forward. Look, this is a very challenging time.